Welcome back, y'all, to Season 1, Episode 8 to the Financial Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jacques M. Jr. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Now, what if I told you being a single father wasn't for the faint of heart? Now, again, this platform is strictly for single fathers. I'm not talking about single mothers or mothers in general or anything else. I'm just talking strictly directly towards single fathers and what they have to endure, go through. Because honestly, the system is not built for us as men. Because I used to be a single father and I went through the system. Of course, the child support, custody hearings, court orders, police, wellness checks, everything, the whole nine, DCF, everything you can think of possibly. Went through that. Outside of moving state to state, country to country, I didn't have to go through that. Prayerfully, thank God for that. As a firm believer, I thank God that I was not able to even go through that. He made sure that everything worked out for the good for me at the end of the day. So what I want to touch base on, because last episode I talked about emergency funds and how prioritizing emergency funds is very imperative as a single father, because anything can happen. As you can see, COVID happened and a lot of people weren't prepared. Lost homes, lost jobs, didn't have food, didn't even have toilet paper. People were fighting over toilet paper, which is crazy to me. And then people start fighting over Popeye's chicken sandwiches, which is even crazier to me. So today's episode, I still want to touch base on emergency funds, but also building up certain types of accounts. So first thing we want to talk about is building the emergency fund. Now you may think about, what is an emergency fund? An emergency fund is an account where you have a certain amount of money. So whatever your expenses are, well, before it was your expenses, but now based on what we see in the economy, whatever, you might need your whole net check to be in that emergency fund. So let's say, for example, and we're talking about priority expenses, rent or mortgage, all insurances, whether it be car insurance, house insurance, medical insurance, whatever insurance, priority, gas, food, uh, anything else of that nature, cell phone, priority. Those are expenses. You calculate all of that. And then you figured out how much of that do you need to survive. If something were to happen, you were to lose your job, be out of commission for however many months, you want to have that amount times 3 or 6. Now, it's nice to have a nest egg. If you can only have 3, perfect, because you have 90 days to figure out your situation. If you have 6, even better. 9 to 12, you're on your way to become a millionaire, to be honest with you. If you can save that much money for a whole year and be safe. The reason for emergency fund is this. Again, I said on my last episode, my car went out, gas leaking, almost got torched and blown up. But it wasn't even about that. It was more so of I was able to pay for something to get fixed immediately. Because truth be told, before that, I was not able to do anything. Single father, living paycheck to paycheck, had a kid, had to move back home to my father's because I got evicted out of a situation. And it was crazy. And at the end of the day, as a man, I had to humble myself and suck up my pride and go back to my father's house and say, look, yo, Pop, listen, I need you to hold me down just for a little bit. And glory be to God, because I have a father who was able to go ahead and take me and my child in and was willing to. Because not a lot of parents are willing to do that. Because they say, hey, listen, I gave you the keys and the tools necessary. Do what you got to do. But I was fortunate. And I honestly, as a firm believer of Jesus Christ, I got to thank God for that, because he created that situation, because everything worked out for the good. And so as I was able to go ahead and prioritize and change my game plan, because we all have vices. To be very, very honest, it doesn't matter who you are. We all have vices. Some people gamble, some people smoke, some people go out to eat, lavish lifestyle, which is me. Some people like to buy hats and shoes, whatever your vice is. You have to be intentional to go ahead and set up your situation to put yourself in the best situation possible to win at all costs, specifically financially. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You can be here today getting hit in a car accident, a bad car accident, and be down for 6 months. And everybody's looking at you depending on you because you're the breadwinner. You're the moneymaker. You're the asset. I want you to think about that. If I'm not here or if I'm out of commission, what's the next step? What's going to happen next? So I want you to really think about that. So having or creating an emergency fund is imperative. You have to have 3 to 6 months. Again, depending on what you make every month, you multiply that by 3, 6, 9, or 12, whatever your situation is, and that's what you put to the side. You put that in a bank account and you never touch that money. That's not money to do anything with. That is just money in the event that something happens. Now that's emergency fund. Then you have something known as a short-term fund. What are short-term funds? Short-term funds could be monies that you want to build up to purchase a car, purchase a home, if you're getting married, if you want to renovate, something of that sort. You put that in a short-term account. Now, this is not the same as an emergency account. Two totally different things. You do not commingle both of those together. Two separate accounts. See, the emergency account, you can leave in a bank account, whether it be a Bank of America, a Wells Fargo, a Chase, a credit union. You leave that money there. You need to make sure that it's accessible and liquid. That's emergency funds. Your short-term funds, you want to make sure you put that in mutual funds, in investments. Because if you go back to my prior episodes, you'll see I talked a little bit about mutual funds. Check that episode out. Very, very imperative you do. There's a lot of information, a lot of wealth and knowledge about mutual funds. So you put that in there and you save for that next goal. Now, does it have to be 1,000, 2,000, 20,000? No, it does not. You can start off as little as $50, $100. But again, if you want to win, you have to win financially. You have to make the conscious decision to transition out of your vices, your habits, that one thing or those few things that are holding you back from getting to become financially free. Now, this is separate from child support. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I didn't say it was the simplest thing ever. No, because a lot of things come up out the blue. But you want to make a decision, an intentional decision to start putting some monies away. That is short-term account. Now, you have the last account with it, which is wealth building account. Now, this is for your retirement. This is for when you decide to retire. Now, retirement is not based on age, it's based on income. Depending on where you are in life currently right now, it's best that you know what your FIN number is. Now, let's have a quick little learning session real quick. FIN number. Everybody's like, what's a FIN? F-I-N. Your financial independence number. Depending on how much you make, you multiply that number by 25. Because usually the life expectancy after retirement age, which is so-called 65, for men is usually about 20, 25 years. Because they say the lifespan of a man is normally about 85. And then for women, they roughly run about 10 more years after that. So you want to think about that. Whatever you make times 25, and that'll give you your financial independence number. That number is supposed to be built up for your wealth managing account or your retirement account. Now, you're probably wondering, how do I get, excuse me, how do I get all three of these accounts started? You only start with the very first one. Start off with your emergency fund. 25, 50, 100, whatever amount you can put in there, little by little, build it up. Now, I will be very, very clear. Life happens. It's evident. As soon as you make the decision to cut off all bad habits and be intentional, that is when life will begin to happen. That is when the car breaks down. That is when there's a leak. That is when your child gets sick and you can't go to work. And if you miss that day, you don't get paid, or whatever the case may be. But that's when you dig in deep and you say, look, life, at the end of the day, I'm a winner. And as a single father and a provider for my child, I'm going to win. There's no other way. That is the bottom line. You as a single father, you have to win. And that'll show your children or your child that, man, my father was always there for me. My father I never lacked for anything, regardless of what the narrative is or what the other party's saying about you. Your children are watching. People can say whatever they say. They'll believe it at first. But after a while, they start to recognize, they start to notice who is the functional parent. Now, I'm not dogging out nobody in particular. I'm just saying, if you are on your P's and Q's and on your grind as a single father and you're making things happen, they will recognize it and they'll see it and they'll be like, you know what? Man, I want to be just like my dad. Or I want to find somebody just like my dad. Because you made the intentional, conscious effort to sacrifice your whole being for this small individual. And honestly, truth be told, you want to make sure, whether or not your children make it to college, or you have the what they call that, or you have the decision factor of them not going to college and start their own business, that's solely up to you and your situation at home. But if they decide and say, hey, I want to purchase a home at the age of it, you should be able to be like, you know what? Let's go ahead and purchase you your first home at the age of 18. Set you up with equity. Or let's go ahead and create that business and build that up. Or if we don't have scholarship money, and instead of taking loans out for school, we have the money here already built in for you. Let me go ahead and pay that for you. Tremendously. Now, I'm not talking about ungrateful children. I'm not talking about this, that, and the third. Those are nuances that we don't need to talk about. But I'm talking about for you. Because honestly, biblically, a good man leaves behind an inheritance for his children's children. And as a good man, my father is a good man, and he taught me how to be a good man. So my whole objective is to have an oil painting of me and my wife at this point, so that when my children's children, they say, hey, mwah, yo, big ups to Big Papa right there and Big Mama right there on the oil painting for setting us up the right way, the correct way. How do we set them up? Make sure you have an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months. 9, 12, if your situation is great, preferred. Then you have your short-term accounts. Once you're done funding your emergency fund, once that's funded to where you like it to be, then you move it on. That same money that you're building up emergency fund, you move it on to the short-term account. Because who knows? You may want to get married one day. You may want to purchase your home, whether it be your first home, fifth home, 1,000th home. Doesn't matter. You may want to purchase something. And then you want to make sure that you secure yourself financially with retirement money. And then you have your wealth building account. You want to make sure you know and you understand your FIN number, your FIN number, financial independence number. Whatever you're making right now, currently, multiply that by 25, and that will be your number. That should be your goal setting number for retirement. Now, rule of thumb normally is you want to save at least 10% of your income. So you want to treat whatever you're putting into your emergency fund like it's a bill. You automatically just put it away. And the same thing happens once you fully fund your emergency fund, you do the exact same thing for your short-term fund. The very exact same thing. So whatever that amount is, you just transfer it over into that investment account for the short term. And then once that's built up the way you like it, for whatever your goal is, you do the very exact same thing. All it is habit stacking. That's all it is. It's giving yourself muscle memory to put money aside for things that matter financially. Because honestly, if you don't understand the money game, how are you supposed to win in the money game if you don't know the rules? Who's teaching you the rules? And if you don't know the rules, how do you expect your children and your children's children's children to understand the rules of the money game? That means the fight is already fixed. You've lost. And as a single father, I want to make sure you're not losing. We've already lost to the system. We've already lost. We got to pay child support. We can't visit. Our rights are this, that, and the third. We've lost in that regard. But where you can win is financially, not only just for yourself, but for your child. Because at the end of the day, they're looking at you and they will one day realize, man, my father, my dad, he's a hell of a guy. And because of him, I'm in the perfect situation financially to become whether the first millionaire, multimillionaire in your family, or the 15th multimillionaire in the family. Just know it starts with you. So catch me on the next episode. I'm your host, Jacques M. Joseph Jr. Thank you for watching the Financial Academy podcast. Peace.